session. Okay, I'm the moderator of this session, and the first presenter of this session is Mr.
Adrian Lees.
Adrian Lees, all right. So he's presenting a very interesting topic: the effects of using mobile phones in the EFL classroom. Okay, so the presentation will be 20 minutes, and after that we'll have a 5-minute Q&A. Now let's welcome Adrian Lees.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd say it's such an honor to be here at AILA to speak. When I started teaching at university about 5 years ago, I made a promise to myself that my first presentation in a foreign country, an international conference in a foreign country, would be in Australia. And I'm really happy to be here in Brisbane, which is only about 1 or 2 hours by car from where I grew up. So it's really exciting that I'm here. Unfortunately, my colleagues, Simon Cook and Akiko Tohei, can't be here. Simon is currently touring around Europe with his family, and Akiko is on honeymoon in North America. So I'm left with all the fun work, not saying work, all the fun business, and here I am in Brisbane. I wouldn't be anywhere else. Today we're going to talk a little bit about mobile technology, using mobile devices in the classroom. The slides, there are no paper handouts, but they can be downloaded on my webpage, which is at the top corner of the page there. Now, technology is a very difficult topic to talk about because with things changing so quickly, by the time you finish your presentation, what you've just said is probably already out of date. So it's kind of a difficult topic to talk about. But what we'd like to focus on today is the motivation side. Do students become more motivated through the use of mobile technology or computer technology in the classroom? Here's basically what we're going to talk about today. Of course, my presentation is not one way. You're welcome to make any comments halfway through, any questions, or of course you're welcome to make any comments on Twitter as I'm doing the presentation. The background for this research actually started about 6 years ago when Akiko and I were working at a high school in Japan. And like many schools, the high school forbid students from using their mobile phones at school. We would often have teachers' meetings where teachers would be suggesting ideas on how to stop students from using their mobile phones. There was even one teacher who would tell us that if you watch the muscles in the students' shoulders, you can see where they're actually texting each other, and then you know that they're actually got their phone under the table, so you can get them that way. So Akiko and I sort of talked about this, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if we actually used the mobile phones for educational purposes and actually use them for the benefit of the students? So when we suggested this to the school, of course they laughed at us and told us that would be impossible. So we quit that school. And since then, we've worked on proving them wrong. We've been researching to show that yes, mobile technology, mobile phones should be used for educational purposes, and it brings great benefits. And that's what we do. I mean, that's what university teachers do, isn't it? We just research to prove that we are right and somebody else is wrong. So that's what we've been doing for the last couple of years. It started off a couple of years ago, or it's actually started before this, but I looked at motivation. I'm more interested in how students can look after their own study, how they can go beyond being motivated. And one of the ways I thought this could be done is by we're looking at how much students use metacognitive skills in their studies. Basically, how much do they think and want to improve their study habits? And in a research of about 400 students, we found that, I found that very, very few students, well, it says few, it should be very, very in there, but were highly motivated and used metacognitive skills in their studies. Very few students. There are many students in this category here who weren't motivated at all and couldn't care less about how they studied. So I wanted to think about how to move more students into the upper right bracket here and have them becoming more autonomous and taking charge of their own learning. One way that we discussed was about mobile technology. And a few background information that we can see. One is Ando and Morito, who have gone as far as saying that the mobile phone should now be seen as an integral part of what students bring to class, just like paper and pens. They also use it in their class for discussions where students can quickly email their ideas or their points. And as soon as they send those emails or those comments, they come up on the screen in the classroom, and the teacher is able to point out any particular interesting or important opinions. Ono Ishihara, again in Japan, used iPod touches for writing. At first they thought that these would be too small and difficult to write on, but surprisingly, the students did very well in their writing by using the iPod touch. Liu found that vocabulary acquisition, learning vocabulary, improved when students used the mobile phone compared to using just the traditional paper version. However, Stockwell, another teacher in Japan at Waseda University in Japan, actually my Japanese teacher in university from 20 years ago, he's doing a lot of work with law, and he found that students, although they liked the idea, they preferred computers to mobile technology because they saw their mobiles as just something for fun, something to play games on. This wasn't for education. A little before that, it was actually in 2011, a year before that, did that research, I looked at the attitudes of teachers towards technology. Do they want to use it? Do they find it convenient for them to use it in the classroom? And basically what the results told me was that they do not. They found it a burden. Using technology was a burden for teachers. They found that they had to make all these special classes. They had to make PowerPoint presentations for each class, and that took time. And that time wasn't worth the attitudes that the students would show afterwards. Interestingly, teachers 31 to 40, this was done about 3 or 4 years ago, so about 35 to 45 now, these teachers showed the most positive attitude towards technology. I thought it would be the younger generation. But when I thought about it, these teachers were at the perfect age for changes in technology, such as the Famicom or the Atari system in the 1980s, the Nintendo coming up through the game technology when they were in elementary school. They were in university when Windows 95, Millennium came through. So they're at the perfect age for the revolutionary changes in technology over the years. But because of the burden that teachers found with using technology in the classroom, we thought that we need to find an easier way for teachers to use technology. What can we suggest that is already out there that they can easily implement into their classroom? So we had 3 main research questions in here. We're comparing 2 classrooms. One where mobile technology is not being used, it's forbidden, like many classrooms are, and one classroom where mobile technology is encouraged by the teacher and it's used quite regularly in every single class. So we're comparing first, how much time do these students study compared to each other? Second, we're also looking about the motivation. Were the students who are using the motivation more, using the mobile phones more motivated, more autonomous in their study? And the third point is just getting some feedback from students, some open-ended items, asking for students' ideas. How did they feel about using mobile technology in the classroom? The students were all university students, 181 students, around 18 to 19 years old. There was it's a little unbalanced, I guess, with quite a few more females. The reason for this being that one of the universities, there are 4 universities involved with this, one of the universities was an all-girls university, thus the higher percentage of females in there. Their English proficiency was about intermediate level, and their mobile proficiency out of 4 was just, again, about intermediate. Mobile proficiency asking, for example, advanced, can you make applications? Are you able to make applications to put onto an app store, for example? So how do we use mobile phones in class? One way, I'll speak a little bit louder, was video. So when we're doing role plays during our English classes, we have students videoing each other. Rather than doing a role play with no practice, of course we practice, reflect, practice again, and then do the real role play presentation. So here we have our students using each other's mobile phones to video record their performance. The students are encouraged, and I won't say that all of them did it, but the students are encouraged to save their video onto their own YouTube channel, which of course can be given at privacy levels that nobody else can see it. This way the students can see the improvement in their performance over the semester. So that's how the students do their role plays and how they're videoing each other. Now once this is finished, once they have finished videoing, they now need to look at the video that they've just had taken of them. So here they're reflecting on their performance. Rather than without the video, when you need to guess what you're doing, you can't see your own facial expression, you don't know if you're standing like this when you're speaking. If you have a video of yourself doing it, just like professional sports players do, then you're able to see more concretely the mistakes that you need to do, what you're doing well, of course, and where you need to improve. So this is what the students are doing here. We're trying to encourage them more metacognitive skills in their language learning. Another way we did was pronunciation practice. It's an application called Dragon Dictation. Has anybody ever used this or used this in their class? It's a very good application to use in class. And it shows exactly what has come up on this, what they've said on the screen in front of them. Now this can be demotivating for students at times because what they've just read from the book is completely different to what's on the screen. However, we did find that when the teachers looked at them, they can encourage them by saying, well, it's not that different. The word looks different, but when you say it, it's not that different, so you've just got a little more to go. So I found that Dragon Dictation was very helpful for this sort of activity. We also used video conferencing. One was a conference between students in Japan and students in Korea. Using Skype on their mobile phones, we were able to contact each other and have conversations about pre-organized topics. And this worked really, really well. The students afterwards then contacted each other through Facebook, and they kept on their friendship through that. Also, we had a guest lecturer and a discussion conducted over Skype, where the lecturer was here in Australia at a coffee shop, was using his computer. My students, this isn't on mobile phones, but students in Japan here had up on the screen the lecturer, and using the microphone here, they were able to have a discussion with the lecturer from Australia. So that worked very, very well as well. So let's have a look at the results. Unfortunately, we didn't see many improvements in the... sorry, I haven't got that far yet. This is our questionnaire. This is how we measure the results. And a few different categories: the metacognitive skills, 3 items, 4 for how students felt about using mobile phones in study, in their self-study, mobile phones in class, and intrinsic motivation. Unfortunately, the reliability, the Cronbach's alpha reliability, was a little low with the intrinsic motivation. So we removed one of the items, which was, would you do your homework even if you told your teacher you didn't have to do it? That was removed because that sort of, was not very good for the reliability. So it's not quite 0.7, but I accept sort of as acceptable for this research. The process was we discussed how to use the mobile phones. We used them in class here, and then the analysis was done using SPSS version 20. So the results. Time-wise, students who were in the classes that were using mobile phones studied significantly more than the students who did not have mobile phones, who were prohibited from using mobile phones in the classroom. The times are completely different. Unfortunately, again, there's a little unbalanced in the numbers here, unfortunately, but these are the figures that we have, where the experiment group, those using the mobile phones in class, were studying an average of 117 minutes per week, and those in the control group, those who were not using the mobile phones in the class, were studying only 81 minutes per week. So that was kind of some nice news for us at the end there. The second one about the motivation, were students more motivated in the classroom. Now perhaps, because we didn't do a before-after test, a pre-post sort of test, it could be possible that those at the beginning of the course were more motivated to study anyway. And that was the reason why they studied more. But looking at our figures here, metacognitive skills, mobile phones for study, and intrinsic motivation, there's no particular significant difference between them. But the mobile phones showed us a significant difference, suggesting that these students were really seeing the benefits of using mobile phones in the classroom. So we should be doing that a little more. Finally, the comments from the students were, on the whole, quite positive. The majority of students here had smartphones or phablets, I think they're also used these days, in the classroom, so they're able to use it. One negative comment was, it was very hard for me to use as I do not have a smartphone, which was, there were only quite a few students who didn't have a smartphone, but that is a valid argument. Although they can use the normal phones for videoing, it does get more difficult when we get to more online work. But generally the students find they are able to study anywhere. They're able to take what they learn in class back home. They can look at their videos on the train on the way home, and nobody knows that they're studying. Everybody around them thinks that they're just looking at YouTube, but actually they are studying, and that's probably a good thing. So in general, what we're seeing at the conclusions of our research is that students who use cell phones in class tend to study more than students who don't use cell phones in class. Also, students who use cell phones saw the benefits of learning English, and they saw it as productive and fun. So we think that, yes, using cell phones does create or does equal more effective learning. Now, as I was saying earlier about the autonomy, getting more metacognitive skills, that's a bit of work for us to do from now on. How we plan to do that, one is using tests through Google Forms and Flubaroo. Anybody use Flubaroo? Flubaroo is a fantastic application that I really recommend quite highly. What I will do is have the students, I will make a test, for example, just a short vocabulary test, and put it into Google Forms. Any listening tests I will put onto my own YouTube page, and then that will be linked into the Google Forms. And once, as part of the questions, the students must add their email address. As an advantage of you have to have the email address. Once they have submitted their answers, that all goes into my computer, and from there I am able to return the tests to the students 1 or 2 minutes later on. As soon as everybody has finished the test, I'm able to return it within 2 minutes. It also gives me a very simple analysis of their results. I know which questions in the test students got less than 60% of the class got correct. I'm also easily able to say which students got less than 70% on the test. It's a very, very good application, and I highly recommend it. Of course, it's free. The other thing I'm hoping to do, this will enable more quicker reflection on their test results and how they did well. It also enable the teacher to focus a little bit more on those points during the class. We also use Google Forms for peer evaluation. So if students are doing a role play just like before, or a presentation, each student is given a QR code, and rather than just the teacher evaluating the performer or the presenter, each student is able to give comments and give a mark out of 10 or 20 or 50, whatever you like, based on that performance. Depending on the class, you might have the students create their own rubric as well, which works just as well, of course. This enables students to think more about their own performance. If they're evaluating others, they're also able to reflect on their own performance and thus, improving their own skills. As I said before, if you have not done so, if you're interested in viewing today's slides or downloading them, you can check them on my blog there. And these are the references if you'd like to check them again. Again, you'll find these in the slides, the items that were used in the questionnaire, the open-ended items. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I think that we have about 7 minutes for Q&A. Questions for